Hello, welcome to the Charles River Conservancy Parkland Show. My name is Renata von Tscharner. I'm the president of the Charles River Conservancy, and we're going to talk about the river and running along the river. It's the most beautiful place to run, as you will hear from our guest. We will be talking about running paths and about underpasses and all the experiences that runners have along the river and how that could be improved. Before we get to that and to our guest, I want you to be aware that this show will be on YouTube, and all the shows are also on YouTube, where you can find shows about other aspects of the work of the Charles River Conservancy, such as our bringing back swimming to the river, our skate park, our Sunday games, all aspects of the river to make those parklands along the river, our urban parklands, more attractive, more active and more accessible. But let me introduce our guest to you. Welcome.
Thank you, Renata.
Jon Puz is a runner, as you can see from his shirt, and he works and lives in Cambridge. He is an officer of the Cambridge Running Club. You have great initials, which is our CRC.
Go CRC.
Yes, that's a great coincidence.
As we joked, CRC squared.
Absolutely. And he's working with a fast-growing healthcare company called Shields Pharmacy Services, based in the Boston area, but he works and lives in Cambridge. And we are, as always, talking about the wonderful parklands along the river. And I want Jon to tell us a little bit of where he runs, what the Cambridge Running Club does, and then the advocacy that he and other members of his club and other running clubs, the advocacy they have been doing to promote underpasses, to make running even more wonderful along the Charles River. So we are on a winter's day, and are you out in the winter running as well, Jon?
I am out there, cold, heat, snow, sun, rain, wind, hurricanes, always out there.
Always out there. Well, it's definitely beautiful out there, as long as you, as they say, there's no bad weather, there's only inappropriate gear.
Exactly.
Yeah. But sometimes you get conditions like that. And,
And right here in this picture, we would like to give a special thanks to New Balance. This is before New Balance and after New Balance. New Balance, as you may know, has worked with the state to support plowing the Charles River bike paths all winter long. So
running path.
Running path, yes. Bike path, running path, multi-use path. So a big thanks to New Balance for their support in allowing Cambridge Running Club, runners, walkers, and all users of the Charles to enjoy the paths year-round.
Now, year-round, we are now, assuming we're going into spring and towards the Boston Marathon and other races. Describe of how you and other members of the running club, how you run along the Charles.
Yeah, so we're out. Our biggest run of the week is Saturday mornings. It's our long run. Obviously, in preparing for a marathon, you have to do your long runs. And so we spend a great deal of our time running around the Charles. And with the beautiful scenery, the great company of the runners, it makes for a great place for training. We do, of course, go over to the hills along the marathon course to actually prepare for those hills. But the bulk of our runs, because we live in Cambridge, we work in Cambridge, are done around the Charles. Mm-hmm. We also spend other days during the week. Most of our morning runs will head out to the Charles. We also do Thursday evening speed workouts, sometimes at a track, sometimes along the Charles. So really the Charles is the place that we run most every day of the week. Some of our runners run in the mornings, before sunrise, at sunrise, all the way through into the evening. I oftentimes end up running in the evening after dark. So we're out there morning, noon, and night, every day of the week, year-round. And without the Charles, we wouldn't be nearly as fit as we are.
Wouldn't be as fit, and it wouldn't be as beautiful. I mean, you look at the picture like that, and you wonder why would you want to do that in in a gym on a treadmill when you can be out there in the sun and enjoying the parklands. So describe a little bit also the races that you and your fellow club members participate in.
Yeah, so I'd say Cambridge Running Club has three major components. One is the running and racing, second is the social, and third is kind of volunteering, giving back to the community. This picture here and a couple of the upcoming pictures are from the Boston Marathon. So we have usually about 50 of our members running the Boston Marathon each year. There are about 25,000 runners from literally around the world that come to Boston. Another 500,000 or so supporters there cheering the runners along from Hopkinton to Boston. It's the premier marathon in the world. It's a great time. Here are two of our runners mid-race, enjoying themselves, Brent and Allison. This is another one of our races, a shorter race. It's about 7.5 miles straight up Mount Washington. Brian and Amanda, they both completed the race. Amanda's actually pregnant now and still running. Brian's a good friend and ran a PR that day, a personal record. And so we do shorter races as well, down to even 5Ks. Here are a couple other pictures along the marathon course. We actually have a barbecue at mile 23, and for our club members who aren't running, we're there cheering our teammates along. This past Boston Marathon was a hot one, so we had hoses out there spraying the runners off as they went by. Great day, a little hot, but still a great day.
Yeah, and so Jon heard about our efforts for underpasses, and these efforts for underpasses really came out of the concern that while it's beautiful to run along the Charles, it's also sometimes very hard to cross at the bridges, and it's dangerous. And so we were looking at ways to make that better. And because the bridges across the Charles, the Anderson Bridge, the River Street, and the Western Avenue Bridge are being restored, we suggested to Mass DOT to add underpasses as they already exist in other places, as they already exist here along the Charles. This is the Elliott Bridge, where already we have an underpass. So we looked at the map, and that's probably the runner's map. You probably look at that map, and your map would have miles, that if you go from the Longfellow Bridge to the Mass Avenue Bridge, that's a certain loop. We looked at that map, figuring out where are underpasses and where are not underpasses, and how could we improve the situation for runners and bicyclists, also for people who bicycle for commuting. And we looked at some examples of where underpasses already exist. We are here at the Lichmere Canal, where there's already an underpass. And then we started to introduce visuals, and maybe that's one of the visuals that you first saw, that you thought, oh wow, wouldn't that be nice if you could actually go underneath the bridge?
Be fantastic. So in addition to my running and biking, I also oftentimes have to drive to meetings, and that means I'm one of those people in the car who's trying to cross through an intersection. And even if I'm obeying traffic laws, there are times when runners come out and it's just people are trying to get through, both in cars and on bikes and on foot, and it's unnecessary congestion. So the bridges, I think, are all about the safety. And so I saw these underpasses, I'm like, wow, this would be so much better. As a runner and cyclist, I could keep going straight through under the road. And as a driver, I could keep driving without having to worry about hitting accidentally a runner or cyclist. And so it made so much sense to me. And as part of the Cambridge Running Club, we do really try to give back to the community, whether it's volunteering locally with different organizations, or in this case, working to support a broad multi-year effort to bring the underpasses to the Boston side of the Charles River. And so reached out to Renata, and we started working together.
Well, it was great. We've been working on that for well over a year, and we started, with this map there showing that with underpasses there could be an uninterrupted route along the river from the Craigie Bridge, which is where the Museum of Science is, And there already is an underpass at the Longfellow Bridge. There is an underpass at the Mass Avenue Bridge or the Harvard Bridge. But when you come to the River Street Bridge, the Western Avenue Bridge, and the Anderson Bridge, there you have to fight the traffic. But then all the way up to the Arsenal Bridge, it would be uninterrupted. That means 8.5 miles of pathway. So what we did, we started to reach out to elected officials. We started to reach out to other groups, obviously the runners and the bikers, as well as to environmental groups like the Environmental League of Massachusetts, the Conservation Law Foundation, the Metropolitan Area Planning Commission. So a total of 44 groups signed on to this effort to support the underpasses, and 29 elected officials, both on the federal, on the state, and the municipal level. Both the Cambridge and the Boston city councils voted to support underpasses. So going back to this map, you see that the yellow line is on the Boston side only. So we focus on the Boston side because there already are underpasses on the two bridges, and we figure if somebody wants to run or bike uninterruptedly, they probably don't mind crossing the river and stay on the side where there are underpasses. But I would like you, Jon, now to explain of how you, when you got involved, when you figured this is something you'd like to get your club involved, what did you do?
Yeah, so I realized the runners had to hear about this, and the cyclists had to hear about this, and they start expressing their opinion. This made so much sense. And I started by reaching out to the members of the Cambridge Running Club, and there was an enthusiastic response. These made so much sense. They would help the runners, they would help the drivers, they would help the governor push toward the green effort. And so what we did is, beyond the Cambridge Running Club, networked out to other running groups and cycling groups that use the Charles very frequently. And so we actually contacted, myself and a couple others, contacted over 40 different groups, running groups, cycling groups, and whatnot, to find out about their interest in the underpasses. Again, overwhelmingly enthusiastic. People said, yes, we absolutely need these. What can we do? And that led to supporting the petition effort that the CRC had been putting together. And so this involved bringing together all these individuals to write letters to the governor and 4 other officials in the state expressing the runners' desire and the cyclists' desire to have the underpasses actually be built. So we have over 1,400 letters that were sent to the governor, plus another 1,400 to each of the 3 secretaries and a commissioner. So a lot of letters have been written, and they're starting to make a difference.
Yeah, well, of how these letters make a difference is that they suddenly realize there is a large constituency out there. And then parallel to the letter writing, the Charles River Conservancy, with the help of a grant from the Bar Foundation and others who matched that grant and foundation help, we then were able also to engage an engineering firm. It's an engineering firm, Gill, that has worked extensively with Mass DOT. And so we started to work jointly with Mass DOT to figure out how could that actually be done. Because over a year ago, it was clear that they just said, no, it cannot be done because it's too expensive, it takes too long, that's just cannot be part of the Accelerated Bridge Program. So with the help of a lot of voices, we made it clear this issue is not going to go away, so let's find a solution.
Let's work together.
Let's work together. And so we engaged this engineering firm who looked at different ways of doing the underpasses, maybe doing it less expensively. And we have some examples of how we thought that could be done. Probably many of you know the River Street Bridge, which is probably one of the worst when you're trying to cross on the Boston side where it says Cambridge Street. That's the Boston side. That's how it looks. And that is where there's not even a light, there's nothing. although the bridge renovation would bring a light and will bring some improvement, but we thought it would actually be much easier to have an underpass, and we asked the engineering firm to look at the solution that would be both environmentally better and also would be more cost effective. So by working on the technical side with engineers and meeting in very productive meetings with Mass DOT and having the runners write and express an interest, I think things started to move forward. Do you want to talk about the meeting? We both went together with some other advocates, with Livable Streets advocates and other Conservancy advocates. We actually went to see Secretary Davey.
We did. We had some great results there, and so I think you were going to detail a few of the results and the commitment.
Yeah.
It's exciting news, so I will let you share it.
Yes.
The news from Secretary Davey's office. So.
Yeah. Well, so we have the 3 bridges. We have this is the River Street Bridge, and then here we have the Anderson Memorial Bridge. And you probably know that the Anderson Memorial Bridge is already under construction.
It is.
It's, I think, for cars it has been quite a change that
Yes.
they're only 2 lanes. Eventually there'll be 3 lanes because there'll be an added bike lane. But we had Secretary Davey and Highway Commissioner DiPaolo was there in that meeting when they said that they issued a change order so that it will be possible to get a tunnel underneath there. That means there will be nothing in the way in the future to build the underpass. We're not there yet in terms of an underpass. That will take other efforts, but there is nothing that prevents an underpass to be built. And the same is true with the 2 other bridges, the River Street and the Western Avenue Bridge. They will change the design to relocate the utilities and to make it possible for this underpass to be there. Another element is there will be a plate put into the road so that once the underpasses are being added, there is no need to come in from the top again and interrupting the traffic again. So these underpasses can be added on at the later stage. Now, I would like you to also tell us how you technically worked with your team to get those signatures in, because it was quite technologically quite an accomplishment what you did.
Yeah, so I wanted to make it as easy as possible, similar to the change order for the Anderson Bridge and the 2 other bridges, trying to grease those skids and make this process as easy as possible. So I worked with a couple of the team members at the Charles River Conservancy to actually design an online letter that would allow other runners and cyclists to very easily go to the website, fill in the information. There was a default template there. They could add some other words or some comments they wanted to share, and then very easily, with just a click, submit that letter, which then was sent to the governor and 3 secretaries as well as 1 commissioner. So using technology to make this as easy as possible. So really excited to be able to help along the way and look forward to doing more together.
Yeah, and here we actually have the information that if you want to sign on to the underpass effort, you go to the website, and there you can sign up, or you email to advocacy@the-charles. So that's the way you can sign up and add your voice to the underpass efforts. But I'd like to step back a moment and also look at some other components of the underpasses. We have here a rendering. This was a rendering done by David Smith. He's a rower himself. He is an Olympic rower, and he is a designer, and he lent his help by creating that rendering. So we are looking at ways of making that path not only safe for runners and for bicyclists and inline skaters and wheelchairs and families, but also to add some more beauty, make it a more beautiful experience as you go there. And one of those elements is to have the underpasses illuminated, because I think the many underpasses people perceive as dark and unfriendly, and we think that's actually not necessary. So this is kind of the advocacy we're doing, and the advocacy is ongoing. We are now looking at how much it will cost to do the 25% design and to do the permitting, because it is a historic preservation issue as well. This bridge is on the Register of Historic Monuments, so any changes to that bridge would need to be approved by the Mass Historical Commission. They actually approved changes when there was an underpass created for the cars in the 1960s. And I think now that there is more emphasis on healthy living and, as you mentioned, green transportation, I think we now need to look at how we can make changes that would benefit the non-vehicular users of the Charles River. Now, when you also got other runners involved in telling some stories. I know there was one kind of a dramatic story that happened on one of the bridges where somebody got almost run over and almost missed a wedding.
Yes, so a member of our running club, her name is Anne, her sister was getting married that day, and so Anne, as she always does, went out for her Saturday morning run, and the crosswalk said, the white sign for a walker, go ahead and cross, and the car wasn't paying attention, and unfortunately hit her. And this is at the Anderson Bridge, the JFK Bridge, on the way to Harvard Square. And I'm sure that driver was thinking about what they were doing at Harvard Square, not that there was a runner crossing in front of them. Again, the runner was crossing legally, and she was hit. Fortunately, she lived, but she had several broken bones and ended up having a couple of different surgeries as a result of that accident. She's since recovered. She's back to running. It took her about a year to do that. But a very sad story that she was hit the day of her sister's wedding. So she was supposed to be the maid of honor, but instead had to spend the day in the hospital. So it's those sort of accidents that no one intends to have happen that these underpasses could really help prevent, making it safer for automobiles, safer for the runners, safer for everyone. So really hoping that the elected officials will begin to support this. The Mass Historic Commission will see the value of this. We're trying to work very collaboratively with the CRC, with the state and other organizations to make the changes in a way that everyone can approve with and enjoy. So we're hoping to have less and less of those accidents like that and more of the great experiences like this picture here of people enjoying the Charles River and the underpasses very peacefully.
Yeah. Well, I think it also is of interest to know that the bridges are owned by Mass DOT, the State Transportation Agency, and they are doing those restoration works. But the pathways and the parklands adjacent to the bridges are owned by the Department of Conservation and Recreation, the DCR. So it's important to work with both those two agencies because they both need to be involved in underpasses. And but there are examples of collaborations, and I think it's possible, and we certainly will continue to work on that and to have partners like the Cambridge Running Club and all those 44 groups that have signed on is very important. And the residents of Cambridge will also benefit from that because it's just crossing the bridge and you're there. Another aspect that we have not mentioned yet is these underpasses will be a great asset for the users of Hubway.
Yes.
And Hubway has recently come to Cambridge, and I know there are going to be more stations, a wonderful program that Mayor Menino has initiated. And actually, Mayor Menino is a big supporter of the underpasses, and both Transportation Chief Tinlin and Environmental Chief Sweat have supported the underpasses. So we have great support from Boston City Hall, and so it will be a great thing for the users of Hubway to use those pathways. Now I want to have the viewers have a chance to get the information they need also about the Cambridge Running Club, so that you can contact them if you're interested in joining the running club. If you're a serious runner, maybe you want to just speak a little bit about who are your members.
Sure, we have a wide range from mid-20s into kind of mid-60s, really. Most of the members are kind of mid to late 20s into their 30s, range from graduate students, postdocs, professors, to business people, to educators. Some folks are involved in nonprofits. It's really a wide range, and we all enjoy running and being social.
Wonderful. Well, I want to thank you. I want to thank you, Jon, for coming today.
Well, thank you, Renata.
And I hope you keep running along the Charles and get the runners interested in related things like advocacy and the river. And thank you very much.
Thank you.